Woorank and TechBelgium.io. GoStation for the venue and a bit of the beers. The Wagon Brussels for the support. And DataCamp also for the beers, and they're hiring developers, I think Ruby and OGS. So if you're looking for a new job, DataCamp is the place. And you can work with the amazing Lynn. She's the conductor of the Belgian bus. So yeah, she's definitely going to be here on the bus. So up next, the panels. We're going to have two panels. So the first one is going to be with Nils de Moor of Woorank and Jessica Rose of DreamFactory. So yeah, may I ask you to join us? If you don't hear us, that will just yell that we have to speak louder, and I will do our best to make that happen. But be aware we're in comfy seats, so we might sit down. Okay, so Jessica, can you introduce yourself to all of us here?
Hi, I'm Jessica Rose. I'm the head of developer relations for a company based in the US. And we do sort of this open source platform that lets you automatically generate reusable REST APIs. Which is difficult because it's really generic. You say, oh, what can you do with it? And like, you use it as a mobile backend as a service, do a bunch of Internet of things that need APIs, or just do weird stuff with connecting data. Before I got into that, I was actually a teacher for a long time, so having everybody clustered on one side of the room is making me really nervous. As a teacher, this is never a good sign. Yeah, I'm American, but based in the UK right now, and really, really into sort of communities and what people are doing around the human side of technology.
Thank you. Nils, who are you and what are you doing?
So I'm Nils de Moor. I am the CTO of Woorank, also co-founded that company about 5 years ago. And basically what we do, or the tool as it is a software as a service platform where digital marketers can follow their brand online, like how it moves on Google and in social media and things like that. So that's the kind of tools we build for digital marketers. It's a freemium tool, so you can use it very lightly for free. And that's the model. So like as a power user, that's the people we try to get the money from and keep it open for the application users.
Perhaps starting with you, Nils, what open source or free software do you use in Woorank?
So I'd say like our stack is I guess almost entirely, at least on the software level, open source. So obviously Linux. We use Ansible for provisioning. We have a Mesos Marathon stack. Use Docker a lot. And then going more to the real software level, Node.js, PHP, Python. So yeah, we're very open source.
Do you use any close software?
I was expecting this question, and in terms of pure software, I tend to say no. We are deployed on like fully 100% on AWS, so that's kind of proprietary, of course. We pay them a lot of money, but like really on the software side of things, I think obviously we use a couple of like third-party tools or things that like help you for event tracking and things like that, but not in the typical sense that we have an Oracle DB or something like that. No, it's more a couple of other SaaS tools, so that we obviously use, but the majority of like the code that's running in our system is all based on open source.
Okay. Jessica, what do you or what does DreamFactory use as open source software?
That's great because we're a really generic tool, so we're really having to work with or try out almost anything one of our customers might want to use. So we've just rebuilt our 2.0 in Laravel, which is great. Because I was a teacher, who here is a developer? Wait, anybody do PHP? Hey, anybody do any Laravel?
So it's used.
Yeah, no, really, really love the community and really, really love the tech around it. It's been really great to use. We're also using open source stuff in the documentations with MediaWiki. But because we're serving such a wide audience, it's really just me. And I was chasing down the whole of the engineering team earlier. And like, tell me about the open source we're using. And they're like, no, I've tried this, I've tried that. So it seems like every 2 days we've got something new and something else coming out, like getting shut down. Sort of a friendly, controlled chaos.
Is it the same like that in Woorank too? Like getting new stuff that's getting released and you want to use it, or?
Yeah, of course. So we've been like building in microservices, I think, before it was cool, like since the beginning, and that obviously enables people to like try bleeding edge kind of things, and indeed, yeah, there lots of stuff are moving, like full new tools, or just in libraries, node libraries, PHP libraries. So we're constantly checking what's moving there, and what things pop up, and what kind of technologies and tools other people are talking about, or communities are forming around. So yeah, we experiment a lot. We burn ourselves a lot in that process too, but it's always like small burns, so we can easily recover from those. But
What software did you burn yourself on? Which one deserves the cross and like needs to burn?
I wouldn't say per se like a full software or a full package, but I do know, especially, and I'm saying this without hating, but on the Node.js side, there's a lot of things moving there, and like every couple of months there's suddenly the hot new framework that everyone wants to use. And yeah, sometimes we have burned ourselves there, that like today this is the hot new thing, and 6 months later the core developers say, nah, we don't believe in the project anymore, so we're out of here. And so from that perspective we burn ourselves. And like I'm thinking really hard, is there like one sort of new technology that we ditched? I can't recall, but one of the rules we try to live by is if we introduce something new, it needs to be something that we can easily get into, but also easily can get out again. So we want to avoid any kind of locking as much as possible. So again, it's always the small burns. So yeah.
You mentioned Docker. I think it's 2 or 3 years old. Did you use it like for a few months, or did you wait until it was at a certain version point, or like 1 year old and you saw some traction?
So we short answer is we definitely already use it in production before before 1. Excuse me. But like it became quite early on our radar. I think it was version 0.5 or something, like end of 2013, early 2014. So it was like really shiny and new. So the our first encounters there were just in a development environment, like all on our machines. We all tried to Dockerize the applications we had, but just like keep it on our laptops. And then over the course of a few months, also when the community started heating up and some best practices were put in place, or people were really pushing out good ideas of how to use it in production, then again gradually we started testing by launching a couple of applications in production, and then more and more and more. Since it's still like everything right now, or let's say like the majority, 95% of everything we run, both applications, but also like processes, cron jobs, things like that. Everything runs in Docker containers now. So that's one of the technologies that has made the biggest change in our environment in terms of ease of deployment, speed from getting things from your laptop in production, and so on. So that's one of the key technologies, I guess, that suddenly made a huge difference in the way we worked.
Okay. Jessica, is Docker also used?
I don't think we're using it wide scale at the moment, no. I think someone is playing with it.
Okay. Just to let the developer machines
Yeah.
in production. Okay. I'm not that familiar with the PHP world, but is it also as fast moving as Node.js?
I think there's different things moving. I know that Node's doing a lot right now. PHP is doing quite a bit as well. I have to be very, very honest to say I don't develop in PHP myself. So a lot of it is getting to be a little bit smug and being like, oh, you guys, you're doing that. Good on you. But I think there's a lot is moving around sort of the frameworks and Laravel's like moving at quite fast speed right now.
Okay. Do you know that DreamFactory is your company contributing back to the community, and in what way is it doing that?
So we're actively our team members are actively contributing to the core Laravel project, and I think everybody's got one or two. I think we've got one of our team members really into contributing to Linux. I know,
That's
which looks exhausting. Enjoyable. Don't tell Linux I'm being mean. No, but just looks really, really involved. So I think everybody's been encouraged to work on their own side projects, which is really demanding to say, you know what, you can develop all day and build these great things, but you know, it would be really nice if you wanted to do some in your free time as well.
So it's in the free time, so like there is a few hours per week that people can contribute to the source world, or?
So we have some time, usually when it's something we need fixed for a project, to say, hey, go see if you can fix that. It's easier on their side. Yeah.
And is it a frustrating process to get things back upstream in the projects, to get it in there?
I think it's often difficult. I think with people who have to manage a really successful open source project. Are you asking in Laravel or in DreamFactory?
Both.
So I think in Laravel they've got a lot of challenges where they've got this really, really dedicated community and everyone wants to be really involved. But they've been really, really good about being really, really responsive to people's questions and issues. I think that's really the type of model we're kind of aspiring to a little bit more. So being much more responsive to the community, being much more open.
And DreamFactory, the products you built, are they open source too, or is it closed source?
So DreamFactory itself is an all open source platform. You can grab it and do whatever you want with it if you host it yourself. But we monetize it by having an enterprise side. So if you want one or two instances, go nuts, do whatever you want with it. If you want us to host 500,000 instances, we'll probably ask for a check.
And then the same question for Nils, of course. Like, does Woorank contribute back to the community, and in what way?
We do. So we have contributions. I think even like the early Ansible plugin in Vagrant is one I've contributed. And we did some things we did some contributions to Docker too. Like in the beginning, it's always the imposter syndrome. Like I'm new to this thing, so I don't want to get my stuff in the open because it's probably shit. So, but it starts with documentation changes or updates, and then there's the from time to time a small change or a small fix. I wouldn't call ourselves an active contributor to the open source world, but we indeed, as you said, like you see something's wrong or there's an issue that's bothering you too, and if it's something you can fix, because sometimes Docker is in Go, so we're not very familiar with Go, so that makes life kind of hard. But on the Node.js side of things, when there's like like a library we use a lot. We obviously know Node, so that's easier to get into, like the boundary of entry is easier. So yeah, we do, not actively, there's no like a rule that we all need to contribute to a certain like a certain amount of time that we need to allocate, but we try to be a good citizen, and when we find something that bothers us and other people and we can fix, then we do that obviously.
Is there perhaps like any small chance that one of your lawyers pays money to one of the open source projects like OpenSSL? The last few years had a few crucial bugs, and it turned out that there were only two to develop and to maintain them. And perhaps companies can start just donating money to them so they can pay their own developers to work full time on it. Is that an option?
We have done that, yes. I don't have a feeling that there's like, let's say like, it really depends on like project by project. Some have an easy system to do donations with Wikipedia style. Others don't really do that, so it depends. But for instance, I think, was it Docker? Anyway, like one of the tools we use in a very early stage, they had this kind of Wikipedia call out, like, okay, if you want to help us, like from $1 to like $1,000, whatever you want, if you can help us, and we did a couple of hundred there, so that's things we do. When the community or the core developers are really providing that kind of tooling to easily pay and get invoices, because they're still in company setting. And in the other hand, yeah, we obviously try to contribute in terms of building communities, like hosting meetups or events. It's not like actual money that we give, but we try to like help them build their community in Belgium.
An example of that is that you recently launched TechBelgium.io. What is it?
So TechBelgium.io is like, the thing is, we organize two meetups: the Docker meetup in Belgium and the AWS one in Belgium. And as an organizer, I always felt really hard to like. It's easy on meetup.com to host events, but it's really hard to build community and have people talk to each other, or even go cross-community, like how do I run Docker on AWS? Like there's no good tooling in their system. So TechBelgium really came out of that issue, and I called out to other organizers, including you, asking the same question, like, yeah, what's your feeling about this? And there was this common idea that indeed the current meetup tools aren't that great. So TechBelgium.io is a Slack community where we try to, where we were open to any kind of community in Belgium to join us, have a channel about their technology or their tool or whatever, and just have people join and talk about things. Like if there was an event about something and they have questions afterwards towards speakers or other attendees, then that's the right, or we hope that can be the right tool or the right way of getting the communication and the conversation going. So
Jessica, you're the head of developer relations. I think your scope is Europe.
At the moment. We're actually in the process of looking to hire mini me in the US and somebody out here. So if anybody really likes to travel, you should probably email me. Bonus points for the people who put up their hands for Laravel. But no, I've only started a couple months ago, and the scope is I was in Japan a couple weeks ago. I was in the States before that. So at the moment, spread a little bit thin and trying to do the best we can to support globally.
How hard is the fragmentation on the technology level in all the countries? Is it like you have the PHP community and the Node.js community and the Ruby on Rails community, but there's like no tech, whatever country it's in, to leverage it for all the technologies?
For the PHP community, I've been really surprised by, at least Europe and US, by how much back and forth motion there are. So if you're at the larger PHP events, you'll see some of the very same names show up in the US, in Europe, and occasionally even in Australia. So for us on the development side, it's very, very PHP focused. So far as getting in touch and building community around users, that's where the real challenge has been. So because we're looking at a cross-community section of users, it's really looking at ways that we can meaningfully contribute to a large cross-section of communities and not just dash in, give a short talk, run out, but really engage meaningfully with what do JavaScript users in Japan really care about? What are open source communities in Belgium focused on? So before coming into a new market and giving a talk or giving a workshop or being in a hackathon, stopping to do a bit of research. Developer relations is this weird kind of fuzzy role where sometimes people see it as marketing and sometimes people see it as engineering. And it really gets cast a lot as going out and giving talks and running hackathons. But I think meaningfully to be authentic and be a contributor to communities, most of what you have to do is listen.
Yeah, I think for Startupbus, what we've seen in the past 5 years is that sometimes developer relations, they send their devs, their evangelists on board, and they use the technology of their employer, and then use it as a demo on how fast they can do it. And I think that's, like you say, a very authentic way of creating community, because you're actually building stuff and showing what the thing can do instead of doing a talk, which is quite easy, although it takes some time to write a great talk, of course. So my next question would be, how important is community or the open source community for you to create, but also for the products that DreamFactory uses? How important is the community behind those projects?
I'm not sure if I'm speaking for my employer. For me, I'm a little bit biased. So I'm a massive community nerd. And I think that's why I was brought on board. So we're really, really dedicated to engaging with the different communities. And it's difficult because when you say, I want to engage with this community authentically, there's still a business case. You're still looking to achieve a business goal. You want more people trying out DreamFactory, or you eventually want more people buying the enterprise side so you can continue to fly to Belgium. So I think balancing looking to engage with the community in an authentic way and looking to really interact with being honest about your reasons for being there is really important and really difficult.
Nils, how important is community behind, for instance, Docker? How important is it to you?
So yeah, I'm gonna steal your term and say that I'm a community nerd myself. It's really important. On one hand, the more local communities are really interesting to talk to people and like share your knowledge or share your experiences and learn from that. I always have the feeling like whatever meetup events, things like this, like you go in with lots of questions and probably go out with even more, but at least it expanded your view on the thing. So that for one is really important. And then the more online community, like the global community around a certain technology, is obviously also important from a perspective where, well, as we said in the beginning, like there might be issues with a certain kind of tool that core developers aren't really aware of, but that, and this is something I see a lot with Docker, for instance. Like there are really few like real issues, or have been in the past, which the core developers weren't like aware of at all. But just in GitHub, the issue, like someone posted, and then suddenly it's an explosion of +1s, and people saying, it's weird, and we weren't even daring to say maybe it's us, like again that imposter syndrome. But yeah, so that really makes it important, I guess, from their perspective also to like shift their focus on certain things and how to grow their tool and their product. So yeah, it's super important, and that's why we're doing and trying to help out in building community.
Okay, great. I noticed on the website of techbelgium.io that there's a small code of conduct there. Have you used code of conduct before?
No, I didn't. So I reached out to, I think, Tech Ireland or Tech Dublin or something that had a code of conduct. Like they also had this sort of Slack community with like similar idea, and they had a code of conduct. And yeah, I just asked them like, are you okay that I kind of steal or at least use a couple of the things you mentioned in there? I said no problem. The reason behind that was just like because things. I mean, now we're all face to face, so then you get context when there's a discussion, but online. But obviously, sometimes it isn't the case, and sometimes words are taken personally or things like that. So that's just the reason why initially I said, okay, let's try to exclude trolls and people who are just there to, I don't know, bash on other people or on technologies or whatnot. So just to have that like stick in the door to say, dude, you're, like, these are the rules, like either you comply or you get out. Like we try to just be friendly to each other, be a good citizen, but luckily it's very early, of course, but we didn't really need to make use of that yet. So let's see, so, like a safety net, I'd say.
I think the fascinating thing here is that open source communities, by using code of conduct, are moving away from impacting not only technology but also culture and how people interact with each other. That's, to me, quite fascinating. Have you seen similar movements around the world, Jessica?
Yeah, so I worked on a couple projects that, because I was a teacher before moving into technology, I worked on some side projects around either tech education or hack days and projects focused on special communities. And worked on a transcode with Naomi Sater, which is a project with a bunch of hack days aimed at getting technologists building small projects around issues facing the trans community, or new folks in the trans community working with tech, or folks who are already there, just giving them sort of a community platform to hang out and do stuff they like. And Naomi wrote our code of conduct, and I love it. And the line I like the best is "just don't." Where she's like, "Here's a rule, here's a rule, here's a rule. Also, just don't." Which is wonderful if you've got a small face-to-face community and a figurehead who can sort of enforce that. Naomi's wonderful and calm and wonderfully imposing if you've ever seen her grumpy. And I think it's really interesting because you're seeing explicit rules for engagement and explicit rules for social engagement placed around the community for what feels very much like the first time. And I think that recognizing that kind of change can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. So I think the reason that codes of conduct and explicit rules around communities are so valuable is that when you tell people, if you say, you know what, here's our community, which is really all of our community, don't be a jerk. It's not especially effective. No one thinks they're a jerk. No one thinks they're the bad guy. Nobody thinks they're the villain. Because that's sort of something you are. That's the condition. That's who you are as a person. And instead of saying, don't be a jerk, I'm not a jerk. I'm just telling you how it is. And instead of saying that, just say, do you know what? Here are the types of exchanges we really want to see. Here's the type of behavior we really want to avoid. Instead of saying, this community isn't for jerks, recognize the fact that sometimes all of us do kind of jerky things and create really low stress interactions around that to say, hey, could you not do that ever again, please? It's a lot easier than saying, you're a jerk, you're a bad person, you need to stop. So yeah, like recognizing that it feels very different and difficult to change for people, I think is valuable.
Thank you. I think with this we can conclude the first panel, except if any of you has any questions for Nils and Jessica. I'm gonna go for the back.
So, very interesting presentation. Good evening. And I have a couple of the questions for both of you. I think those topics haven't been covered. So, you both are developing platforms that provide some kind of the service to the people. And what about your platform's flexibility? So, if you decided to change one of the tools you're using to develop that platforms, do you going to get the cart of house effect, that you have to rebuild everything from zero? If you could share your experience. And also another question is about the data security. Still the people are putting their information that, and do you assure or do you use any kind, or maybe you could recommend the open source tools to really assure high quality data security? That's questions.
So far as starting over from scratch, when you start using new tools, we've just completely rebuilt 2.0 in Laravel. So part of it was, hey, we think this tool is much better for what we're doing. We're going to start all over again. And a lot of it a tiny bit of it may have been the engineers being really excited to sort of rebuild in a new technology that felt a lot more flexible. So 1.9 is still around. It's still, if you really wanted to, you could have a play with it. But we really did sort of go back and build up from the ground up. We're not expecting to do it all over again in the near future, so we didn't wipe out all of our users' ability to do things. But yeah, in this specific case, we did go ahead and just tear everything down and build everything up.
Just if I can add to a question. So as you building the new platform with the Laravel, your features are the same. You're providing as a service. Your features are the same, but they're just happening more faster. They become more efficient.
We built a bunch of cool new features as well. So
Nice.
a lot of the reason to move into Laravel was we wanted to do a lot of things with user management. And to touch on your stuff, we wanted to do a lot better job with data security. I'm not saying that 1.9 was terrible. I liked 1.9 a lot. But as we had more users playing with it, that sounds a bit patronizing. As we had more users doing serious things with it, our users were really great about flagging these things to be like, you know what, we'd like to see a little bit tighter security here. We'd like to see you able to do stuff with OAuth. We'd like to see you doing things with different kinds of protocols. So adding features around security was really, really valuable for us.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I understand the first question correctly, or at least I don't think it applies to us because we're not a platform for developers. It's just a tool that digital marketers use. Or was the question more like
yes, but to
platform?
develop that tool for the digital marketers, you're using some kind of bunch of the tools, so some kind of bunch of the codes, programming languages. Yes, and then you maybe understood, or maybe there's some kind of the new tool, and you wanted to try it again. Yes, you want just to try it.
Yeah.
And if you would like to implement that your new tool in all that kind of the
Okay, yeah. So we're also in the process of changing a couple of older applications because 5 years is old in software development, obviously. But we're not necessarily entirely refactoring or rebuilding what we have today and make an exact copy of that in the new and shiny tool tomorrow. Basically, the way we try to do it, at least, is to like pull out feature by feature and have like a separate new kind of microservice or mini application for that, and then try to build the glue. Like first, obviously, you're still with the legacy and the new thing, so we need to have the glue, get those two together, and then in the end, when everything is moved over, then the glue will take all those new applications into account. But so the like unwritten rule we try to live by is to have projects or to at least deploy to your new thing to production within a month. If it takes longer than a month, then that means that you're overshooting and that it's too big. So you need to make that new application, old feature, but in a new package, need to make it smaller, and that's like the way we try to think about things, and that keeps it easier for everyone to understand and like to grasp what will be involved in building this new thing. That for one. And then as far as the security goes, so like the first thing I have to explain about our tool is that basically I guess, or at least the information we push back to users, that we grab and push back to users is I'd say 95% public data. So it's data that's already in the open. So that's kind of a relief to us already. And then in terms of the user data that obviously need to be secured, we're basically on one hand following the best practices that providers like Amazon put in place, and they're also building more and more tooling or providing more and more tooling to check all those rules that you comply to their security rules, that like not stupid ports are open, or like that your DB is only accessible by certain types of application or certain types of instances, things like that. So we use all of those tools, and then for like really highly sensitive information, thinking about credit cards, that's what we use third-party providers for, so third-party tools that we pay a lot of money for, so we don't have to worry about it. So that's like their real core business. They take in the credit card details, they do the charging and things like that, and they just provide us the APIs to get the minimal amount of information we need to make sure that like we know a user renewed his subscription or cancelled or is a new sign-up. So yeah, best practices on one hand, and if it's really like super sensitive, we try to make it someone else's problem.
Really fast.
Sure.
I didn't know, when I was talking to you earlier, I didn't know you were the Woorank fellow. I used to work with digital marketing data, and I loved you guys. It's good to learn.
It's a small world.
Yeah, so I have a question for Jessica. So you mentioned about sometimes developers will want to use or adopt certain open source technologies, and sometimes it gets shut down, you know, the idea of doing that. So is there a formal process around that? Is it something where you go, let's make a case study for using this, or what kind of work will be involved in migrating to this, or is it much more informal?
Gosh, there should be. So we've got a relatively small team of engineers, and we've got like really, really passionate, really lovely people. So it's more a matter of like, hey, I've been playing with this, look at this. So it tends to be very informal, and it's often whoever can be the best sort of advocate for their idea. Be like, check it out, no, wait, let's try it. So there's a lot of spending a bit of time exploring something. I think we're really, really good at being brutal when it doesn't work. So we all really like the new tech. We all really like seeing what things do. And I'm really biased to new tech that's got really cool communities around it. So coming in and saying like, okay, let's try it, let's play with it for a couple days. No. On one hand, it might be really nice to have a process. And on the other hand, I wonder whether or not a process might sort of still some of that gently bonkers creativity. That didn't answer anything, and I'm sorry.
Okay, anybody else who's got a question? Okay, then I suggest you get one drink and be here back in 5 minutes. That's 8 o'clock.